Today, on my first concert, one of those is Geraldine Steele, who I know
Yes.
you're a big fan of.
Oh yeah, her and Javita, so much, so
Javita
much,
too,
so
yeah.
much.
Well, the
Oh
whole
my gosh.
family,
Yeah,
right?
the whole family. Yeah, I go all the way back to first grade with that family.
Wow.
Yeah, I grew up with Michael and Venice, and it was in school with them and in Girl Scouts, which my mom was a Girl Scout leader. So we were all tied in. So I've known them people, my whole life.
The Girl Scouts, you should have had a band.
I know. I was thinking about. We did have a talent show though, and that's the thing. We're trying to find this tape because there was 1996. We did a whole thing, and we were like the Supremes and Shaka Khan and Aretha, and there is a real tape. And when I find this, everybody will know.
The old VHS, I'm sure.
Yes.
Yeah. PaviElle French is not only an Emmy Award winner, she's a vocalist, she's a songwriter, she's a composer, she's really something else. And we're talking about all of those things, and a St. Paul native too, by the way, and she is a musician's musician. That's how I would refer to her. But we're going to talk with her today on My First Concert, brought to you by our friends over at Star Bank, and you can check them out at star.bank. That's our bank here at Talk North, by the way, so we practice what we preach. And also by AquariusHomeservices.com. From the AquariusHomeservices.com studio, and I'll mention Jeff and all the great people there who I've known for well over a couple of decades, and they do all of my things at my home as well. So we'll tell you more about that in a minute. PaviElle, really nice of you to join us. Appreciate your time. Congrats on everything that's happening. First things first, though. What was the first concert you ever saw?
The Colors of Christmas, 1992.
And where was it?
Orpheum Theater, and it featured Melissa Manchester, Roberta Flack, and Peebo Bryson.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
And what do you remember about it?
It was a surprise. It was my birthday's in November, so my mom did a birthday/Christmas present, and she somehow managed to keep me on my toes that whole week. We're gonna go see a show, get ready, and then she blindfolded me into the Orpheum, so I didn't know we were there. Yep, I heard the buzz of the box office, and I'm like, "Oh, what's going on?"
Yeah.
We get through the doors, and she walks up to the door, and the usher opens the door. She takes my blindfold off, and I see the biggest grand piano I've ever saw. Ever in life, and my mom puts the playbill in my face. And oh my gosh, I was the 8-year-old that loved Peebo Bryson and Roberta Flack. Like, Roberta was my absolute, like, one of my music gods, because she played and she sang and she composed, she did all these things. So I just lost my mind for a few seconds. Couldn't get it together. I burst into tears. I was just jumping. I mean, it was one of the most grandest things in my entire life. That's why I was so happy you were going to ask about that. I never tell that story.
It was even better, I bet, for your mom.
Yeah, absolutely. She was so happy.
Watching you.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and she loved them too, loved all those artists and stuff. And I really loved Melissa Manchester, because at that time, she was Blossom's mom. Oh, you remember the show Blossom and Joey?
Yeah. Yes, because I saw her in concert. I never thought about that.
Yes. So it was everything for me. Like, these were superstars. And I was like, okay.
So do you remember any of the sets, any of the songs, any of that sort of stuff? I mean,
I remember the Christmas song. I remember I think that's the Chestnuts Rose Now Open Fire. I remember that. Roberta and Peebo and Melissa, they did that in 3-part harmony.
Oh, wow.
I remember that really specifically.
So what were you doing musically at 8 years old?
I was gigging. Oh my gosh. I was gigging for a choral group called Mississippi Singers from Mississippi Magnet, and we were playing, we did shows at the Metrodome with Mannheim Steamroller. We got to do John Denver at the Orpheum and stuff like that. So I was like full out gigging, doing Joseph, the Amazing Technicolor Coat, and all this stuff.
Wow. Man, so and there's music in your family, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
But when did your parents know that you had that ability?
About 2. Like, they said I sang a lot as a baby, always vocalizing, but 2, I was always in the albums. And there's a picture of me in my robe and socks in some albums trying to dig through, like I was knowing what was going on.
Too young to read the liner notes.
And totally trying to, okay? Like, I was trying to get at that music box. My mom had to show me early how to play those records, because I was just going to do it regardless. I would get on step stools and try to put the needle on. So she had to put a penny on the needle for me, so I wouldn't skip it,
Oh, God. That's awesome. And then, were there other concerts that ever stood out to you? Did you? I mean, you're gigging, you're performing.
Yes.
Obviously, now you're always busy. Did you have time to see any others that you recall that you loved, or well, didn't even love? What did you see? Do you know?
Oh gosh, yes. There was a lot of concerts. I mean, I think there was a lot of local concerts that I really liked. I remember the Peace Jam of '95, where the Abstract Pack. It was the first time I had ever seen the Abstract Pack from here, and they're a hip hop group. Roosevelt Mansfield was a part of it, and Glow Martin, and like several other people. It was just really dope. And there was a guy, may he rest in peace. His name was Herbie. I think they called him Cess. But they were really, really, really dope. And I remember it was the first hip hop concert that I really went to, and I was probably 11, and it was just the energy. It was like all these young people, and we were jumping, and that's when I learned about my love for hip hop and really discovered that and got into that different genre. And then there was another concert that I had went to. That's one of the most memorable ones, and it was the rapper Redman, and Toyota Scion had these series where they were just giving away free tickets to people, and we got to see Jizza the Genius from Wu-Tang, and we got to see Redman. And at the Redman concert, I had I dressed up really nice, and somebody was like, "You better not stand next to his stage because he throws water at his crowd." And I was like, "No, he doesn't. Who's going to do that?" And sure enough, he opened up his water bottle, and he was kindly drinking, and he was like, and we all went running.
Did he get you?
He got me.
Yeah, got you.
Because I was right up front. Like, we booked to the front because it was at the Varsity, and you know how the Varsity room is?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, back in the day. So, like, the Varsity was really, like, popping in the early 2000s, and we were there all the time, and I couldn't even get away, really, because there were so many people, and we all got wet up. I was so mad. I was looking so good. And
Have you, but you stayed for the rest of the show, right?
I did, yes.
Have you ever incorporated anything like that in anything you've done on stage?
No.
You have not thrown water.
I have not thrown water, but I will directly talk to people. I will directly shout out folks and talk to people from the stage, crack jokes, and like I think it's fun to do that. It's, because it takes away the tension of that. And I'm like, don't be so serious. This is a fun show. Wake up. It's good. Let's hang.
Here we go, yeah. Chris Isaac is a good one at doing that, too.
Yes.
I've seen him.
Yes.
Going out and reaching out to people. So there's so many facets to you. Vocalist, musician, songwriter. Before we went on the show here, we were talking about composing, which is amazing. The thing I want to ask you about, though, and we'll talk about that, is the Ordway is a very special place. Been there many times for many different types of shows. I've always thought the sound in there was, and I'm just as a spectator. As a musician, I'm not sure what it's like for you because that's far more important. But for you to perform in your hometown at the Ordway, and it's your music, and it's your town, and I mean that had to be emotionally. What was that like for you? Because I mean, anybody at the Ordway, but much less growing up and not too far away from it.
Exactly, and funny that you say that. I worked for Penumbra Theater as a kid, and I was about 14 or so when they did Dinah Was with Regina Marie Williams, and it was one of the best shows that I've ever saw in this town, and it was at the McKnight Theater. And I was 14, so I went over to, as Penumbra's, person. I was the one that, hi, you should get tickets to Penumbra. Buy our season package. Like I was.
You were out in that lobby?
Exactly. I was right in the lobby, and I was Regina's roadie, so I was helping her get quick changed and, following her around, just trying to be like her, and just being so inspired.
And you were loving it.
Yeah, and loved it. I mean, like, it's one of the greatest memories of working for Penumbra and doing that as so young, to be in, ninth grade doing that stuff. And then to, 15 years later, I'm here at the same theater playing my own show, doing the things that I was shown as a child, and like paying it forward, keeping the tradition alive, all these things. So it was really emotional for me to get to play a song that I wrote for my parents and especially my mom with the orchestra. And I mean,
you teared up at the end of that.
I did. I cried.
Yeah.
I mean, you could hear a pin drop. The sound was so beautiful. You could hear every cry, sniffle, clap, anything from anybody, any movement. And it was that intimate.
Wow.
It was everything. Yeah.
Wow.
And not in a distracting way.
No. It really made me feel connected. because that was another show that had so much pressure riding on it. Like that was pressure. It was my first composition.
Oh gosh, yeah.
You know, I had a lot of things in my mind to prove that I could be a composer without having to write music, write notation. And I was like proving myself as a composer. So I just hearing people say things or agree when I would say certain things about my mom that some people in the audience might know. It was so communal. And the whole community came out because I saw all these people that knew my mom and dad or knew me as a kid that were there experiencing that with me. So it was just not distracting, but anything, it made me feel more whole.
But there's a pressure when you know, I mean, you're a performer, and when performers start performing, you're just you've been there, you get it, you know it, you're confident. But when it's your stuff, and now it's just a little, you know, I mean, added pressure. But when it's done, it's like the best feeling in the world, I'm sure.
Yes, it's like I did this and I can do this again.
Yeah.
Like now let's go back and do more and keep pushing the boundaries and stuff. And yeah, it was everything to me to cross into that world of music because of my mind and how expansive it is with thinking about music and the things that I hear. I need to be writing for big band. I need to be writing for big orchestral, you know, movements and chambers and things because I want to hear all these polyrhythms and these multiple sounds.
She's PaviElle French. When we come back, I'm going to ask her about the venues that she's played in the past and what those are like. And we talk about the Ordway, which is magnificent, but there's many others that you performed in, so we might go down that road if you don't mind. I do want to thank our good friends over at Aquarius Home Services. .com, by the way, you can go to their website. They're in town here, local company. But, you know, I always said they believe in earning the right to be recommended. And I think that's really cool because they do that. They've done that forever. I remember when they started the business, and it's just really impressive. You know, one of the things that happened recently is we had a little spring storm. Now, most of it stayed south. Some of it came into part of our area here. And when you lose power at home in a storm, not so good. Aquarius Home Services have got you covered, though. They have a top-notch generator installation service. I would find out about that. You don't want the fridge to start getting warm. You don't want the sump pump to stop working. So they've got a great opportunity for you on that. So I check that out as well. I'd also check out their Connecticut water treatment systems because in both my home, and I know many of you with cabins, the water at the cabin probably is a little questionable sometimes. They can clean all that up. And all of the stuff you read about and hear about with water and some of the things in it, Connecticut gets that all out of there. So you could say, oh, well, I don't know, does Dave know what he's talking about? Call Jeff, any one of the great folks over there. I trust them. I use them. I just had them out doing an air conditioning tune-up. So find out more about them at AquariusHomeservices.com. Great people, and we're proud to have them here as one of our sponsors. On my first concert with PaviElle French, the Emmy Award winner, the artist, the educator. I mean, I don't know where to stop with you. There's so many things that you do. But let's go back to venues now.
Yeah.
So the Ordway, fantastic. Any other venues that stand out for you in any particular way?
Yeah, I played the Men Post Roast probably in 2016, something like that, Orpheum Theater. Great sound. Warm, very, very warm. And I loved the way that it's set up because it's old school and it makes me feel like, you know, the old school jazz singers. Like it was one of my top shows that I ever loved doing because we also had a really nice band behind us, and it was a really interesting show overall because it's like a big roast, and you know that's my first time like participating in you know something like that. But I just remember like I really felt like Billie Holiday or Ella Fitzgerald in that moment, and like I had this gown and the spotlights and stuff. It was just everything. And another place that I loved.
Who's the band with you then? Do you remember? It wasn't your band.
No, it was a band that Men Post had put together. I can't even remember now. That's that.
Oh, that's all right. Anyway, I diverted your attention here.
The other place is the Fitzgerald.
Love the What is that like from the stage? I mean, again, we've been there as spectators, but for the artist.
Oh, I love it. I think the Fitzgerald is one of the best rooms to play. I did my Sovereign Suite premiere with the Schubert Club. It was a commission from the Schubert Club that I had in 22, and we did it at Fitzgerald. And I've played there several times. I played with Preservation Hall Jazz Band there, like all kinds of stuff. But it's a magical room. I don't know what it is. And the Steels, they've written on the back wall. Like there's this whole back wall that they have of like all these artists that have played the room, and like I seen the Steels on there, tons of people, and it's just amazing, like the life that has been in that room, and I think it has like given something to it. It reminds me of like Penumbra, like because of the energy that has been there and that has staked its claim there, it stays there, or a piece of that energy of those people stay there. And that's what it feels like to me at Fitzgerald's.
And it's St. Paul.
And it's St. Paul,
which
yeah.
has got a little special
That's right.
place in your heart, I would think.
That's right. Hometown.
Oh,
Always.
yeah. Yeah, well, you mentioned the Steeles. We have a number of friends we were chatting last week in common. One of those is Geraldine Steele, who I know
Yes.
you're a big fan of.
Oh yeah, her and Javita, so much,
Javita too, yeah.
so much.
Well, the
Oh,
whole
my gosh.
family,
Yeah,
right?
the whole family. Yeah, I go all the way back to first grade with that family.
Wow.
Yeah, I grew up with Michael and Venice, and it was in school with them and in Girl Scouts, which my mom was a Girl Scout leader, so we were all tied in. So I've known them people, my whole life.
The Girl Scouts, you should have had a band.
I know. I was thinking about. We did have a talent show though, and that's the thing. We're trying to find this tape because there was 1996. We did a whole thing, and we were like the Supremes and Shaka Khan and Aretha, and there is a real tape. And when I find this, everybody will know.
The old VHS, I'm sure.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Chaka Khan. She was one of your
Yeah.
favorites as a youngster, wasn't she?
Yes, and I met her.
No.
Opened up for her at
Come
the
on.
women. Yeah, there was a women's summit years ago, like the African American Women's Summit or Women's Expo, and she played that show, and we opened up for her, and I got to meet her. And the funniest thing about it, she had this lace outfit on, and for the whole show, she kept talking to us about how the lace was itchy, and it was funny. Like I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta meet her. I gotta meet her. And she was so kind and so sweet and so special to me. I mean, like that. I was blessed to meet a lot of my idols and a lot of people that I love to watch and to learn from, and it's been a great experience.
But your style is your style, or have you melded all of the Chaka Khans, the Arethas, into
Yeah,
one? I mean,
definitely.
have they done things that you like that you incorporate? Or?
Oh, for sure. For me, it's always Shaka Khan, Aretha Franklin, Ella Fitzgerald, then Taka Boom, who was Shaka Khan's sister, who played in Parliament, the brides of Funkenstein, which is Lynn Silva and Dawn Mabry.
Yeah.
Yep. And then also Mickey Howard and Mother's Finest. All those women really hit hard with their voices, and they can get as like brassy and as loud as trumpets, and they can be as soft as violins. And I love the way that they do very dynamic shows. And then I always took a little bit of personality from Bernadette Cooper from Climax.
Oh boy!
Yeah, because I always like when she I knew I looked good. I walked in wearing my Versace suit like that. I was 2 years old singing that. Meet me in the ladies' room, okay? But I like that moxie, I love women with moxie.
So you'll do a little scatting now and then, right?
Yes.
What about Etta James?
Etta James or Ella Fitzgerald, both
Yeah.
I think the scatting is. I've studied those folks a lot because the scatting that they do is almost a language. It's almost like they have certain consonants and vowels and things that they do their scatting on, and I followed that a lot to learn because, at first it was different to get into it because I didn't understand the rhythmic thing of it, and I had to think about think if you're a drum, how would you solo, in this song? And then that really helped me develop the scatting. Yeah, because I was like, how do I fit into these rhythms? And then think about the melodies on top of that. And then now I can do it to the point where I can freestyle it, and I don't have to think about it much or really have something outlined out to a song. And, it's second nature now, and I can just sit in and do stuff because I've practiced my craft long enough,
Well, gosh, have you ever? PaviElle French is with us. So, scatting, playing the piano, composing, you're a singer, obviously, and all these things that you do. If I said, I just want you to do one thing for a show, what would you pick? What would you want to write it? Would you want to sing in it? Would you want to just play the piano in it? If you had to only choose one, or is that unfair? That's pretty unfair.
It's unfair. But also, if I were to choose, I think I would choose to sing.
Mm-hmm.
I would choose to sing. I would choose to be, because everything else, as long as it was there, I had a big band and I had all this stuff. Even if it wasn't my music or whatever, I would still choose to do the art of the song. Yeah. and to vocalize that.
Yeah. But we talked about music in your family.
Oh, for sure.
So what kind of instruments did you grow up with around the house? And was it a lot of singing, or was it, I know saxophone was one of those things?
Definitely. So my uncle was a saxophone player, and he played with Sonny Knight in the band Hayes, which is locally from here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And then I played with Sonny many years later, which was wild because we didn't even know each other. And I was like, yeah, my uncle used to play for Hayes. And he was like, what? Gave me the biggest hug. I know your mom. I know your people. We're family. Love me some Sonny. Rest in peace, man. But yeah, my uncle played. My mom also played saxophone. She did a lot of music in her teenage years with Cynthia Johnson.
Oh, Cynthia, yeah.
Yep, and Yolanda Bruce. So like those folks, who went on to be wonderful singers and performers and stuff like that. My mom was just in the mix with them. And her cousin was also a founding member at Penumbra Theater. So, like, that's how we all got in. My brother's an actor, 11 years older than me. So he was already showing me stuff out the gate when he was babysitting me,
Wow.
So we were acting and playing and dancing.
It was like a school.
Yeah,
I mean,
it really was because
yeah.
I just developed the natural thing. And I had a family that, because we were so many artists, that it was accepted. And once I decided to really do that, my mom immediately put me into training. By the time I was 5, I was working with Mary Hafner. Yeah. She was my school teacher too. She was my music teacher at Maxfield, but she was also the minister of music at Pilgrim Baptist Church back then. So I was working with Mary Hafner, and she was teaching me how to sing. I remember we learned Tingaleo, and we was learning like songs in Spanish and Swahili songs, and like all kinds of different stuff. And she just exposed me to a plethora of things that I could do. And I was like, I can sing, dance, and do all these things, And so my mom, being at Mississippi Creative Arts, I took dance, drama, all these things, jazz, ballet, tap, all that stuff, so I could do musical theater, which is what I really got into by the time I was in my teen years, working with Stepping Stone and, a lot of youth arts organizations and stuff. So I was just doing it all.
But those are all things you wanted to do, right?
Absolutely.
Nobody said, hey, you have to do this. You loved it that much.
I wanted to do it all.
How cool is that?
I loved it. And, growing up watching musical theater stuff, like I was really big into The Wiz, really big into School Days, really big into things that had like dance numbers. So, I could pick up choreography easily. I could pick up music. And it was just things that came to me so natural that I was like, why not? I like to draw. I like to take pictures too. I like to do all kinds of stuff. I'm like, anything that has to do with art or around the art or the direction of art, I think I can get in there. Even with the radio, which came later,
The radio's fun because it's all theater of the mind, which to me has always been that's just a great way. I always thought to approach it because everybody's listening and they picture you different. They picture what you're talking about different, and your words matter. And
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and you're doing that radio show, folks. She's on KBEM, aren't you?
That's right. Yeah. Jazz 88. I am DJ Lady Luca, and I have Luca's Juke Joint.
So, and when can people hear it?
They can hear it on Friday nights from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. on 88.5, or you can stream it on 88.5, I believe.org. Yeah. So here we go. FM, excuse me. Yeah. Jazz88.fm. Thank you.
You made me smile when you said Cynthia Johnson because I remember, of course, Funky Town.
Yeah.
And when I first met her, my friend Yvonne introduced me to her, and I was so I kind of was like abadee. Pretty impressive. I'm sure she's going. Okay, see ya. But we've got a lot of powerhouse talent in this town through the years.
Oh, yes. And people don't know that. Like, that's the thing. Actors come here from New York and from California to grow, and they have to step on our stages in order to take that next level. So there's something to be said about that here, And to me, I'm just being a rebel. I'm like, hey, I've lived here my whole life, and I've gotten an Emmy and a Sage Award for dance and a Mark Award and all these fellowships and all this wonderful stuff. I just got a McDowell a couple weeks ago for fellowship.
Congrats.
Thank you so much. Exactly. So that's why I was just like, why not? It will show people that you can either leave and do stuff, or you can do stuff right at home and do the same thing and put things back into your community.
Well, you've got a background in education as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I grew up a teaching artist. By the time I was, 16, 17, I was doing residencies and going in with a group of other artists and doing poetry residencies, writing workshops and stuff, and really became interested in being a teaching artist just because I was watching the other teaching artists around me, and especially like Lori Carlos and folks like that, Soyini Guyton. They really took a a liking to me and really showed me the ropes on how to do that stuff. Ahanti Young was another one, and also James Austin Williams, the actor. And he showed me a lot of ropes as far as doing teaching and stuff. And so I've worked through SPCPA for a while and worked with those wonderful kids over there at the conservatory and CCLA. So I was always doing art stuff, and it's just a lifelong thing. And I'm writing a curriculum right now with some other educators because that's what my path is going to be. I'm like, as I get older as a performer and stuff starts to quiet more, because I'm liking that. I've been gigging for 30 years, like when I think about it.
Yeah. I don't know if I see you slowing down with all the things you're doing, but it's a good game plan, that's for sure.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's you're having fun still. That's the key.
Yeah.
So what's up next now? What are you working on, by the way, beside those things you mentioned? Musically, are you writing anything, or have you had the time to do anything?
I am. I actually am writing my third album, which will probably not be out until next year, but I'm in the throes of writing that right now, and I got some stuff that just came out with a group that I collaborate with called Charlie Murphy. We just released some music, and I am getting ready to do some shows, and I just did a screening last weekend for my film, The Sovereign Suite, at the Minnesota History Center, so that went really well, and the panel discussion came from that, so that'll be out soon. And ACF, I just finished my artist in residence with them, and so there's a commission that'll be out coming up this week, I think, and we're going to do like a release about it. I wrote it as the commission for the whole artist in residency. So it was like all of my experiences put into music, and it's created as a violin quartet for young players. So we had Wyzetta High School premiere it at the MMEAs this past February. So stuff is going good, and we're getting ready to launch this because Hal Leonard has said okay to publishing it for the whole scholastic system. I'm just like, okay.
Yeah, well, and musically, the town's gifted. I mean, just the high school kids and the opportunities that they have now is amazing. But also, they're good. Mm-hmm. But getting back to your talk about people coming here, there's still that Minneapolis, St. Paul, Twin City sound is still there, which is just a great thing to identify with. Yeah, but I wanted to ask you. You made me think of this when you mentioned another album will be coming out at some point soon.
Yeah.
As a 4-year-old, you're going through your albums and looking at them and hoping that you can actually read what the liner notes are. Are you on vinyl?
Yeah. Well, there is like a 45 of a cut that I have. Yep.
It seems to me you need to have a vinyl.
But I want a vinyl. I do. I need to get a vinyl of both Sovereign and Fear Not, of my last two albums.
Yeah, that'd be so cool.
Yeah, and people ask me about it all the time because I sell the CDs and stuff at Electric Fetus.
Sure.
So they were like, "Is vinyl there?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "No." But I do need that.
Home?
I do. Yep, I do have a turntable, and I have all my mom and dad both passed on when I was about 25. So I inherited 900 albums plus whatever I bought because I used to DJ, but way before this. So I have tons of albums and 45s. Just wonderful stuff.
One of the first albums that I ever bought, and it might have been back in the day when they had the Columbia Record Club, and you'd pay 99 cents for like 13 albums or whatever. You forget that you have to.
That, BMG, all of them.
Yeah. You could only pick from certain catalogs and categories, right?
Well, it was a pretty good choice.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Columbia Records.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was a lot of things. But I remember one of the very first I ever had was one I think was one of the first ones that you had. Sly and the Family Stone.
Oh, yes.
I loved it. I love it to this day.
Yes. Stand. My mom, I was about 7 years old, and she sat down at a table with me, and we listened bar by bar of this song, and she wrote it down because she wanted me to memorize that. It was something she wanted me to take with me.
What did she like about Sly and the Family Stone?
Oh, I think my mom, she was just
like you liked everything?
Yeah, I think that. And she would also, I think it's the time period. She was born in 54. So at that time, she was in her late teens, early 20s. And I have pictures of her at Johnny Winter in Iowa in 1971 when she was 17 years old, okay?
I saw Edgar and Johnny together at one time.
Yeah. And so she loved Rare Earth, War, Sly and the Family Stone, anything that was out there, far out,
Yeah.
and, hippie
Oh,
and
fun.
flower child. That's what she said. I was a flower child, So I think that's what she loved, the freedom of it, and I think that's really why she wanted me to learn that she wanted me to learn "Stand" by Sly and the Family Stone, and she wanted me to learn "Free Your Mind" by Parliament Funkadelic, and that was my mother in a nutshell,
Yeah. Well, I assume you've seen Parliament Funkadelic in concert.
Yes,
George
I have.
Clinton. That is one of the most unique stage shows you'll ever see. All of
Ever.
a sudden, you got a couple people over here, and then there's 4 more coming this way.
Oh my gosh, yeah,
It's
it's
awesome.
wild. And I saw them last year at Uptown when they opened up the Uptown Theater downtown or Uptown Minneapolis.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it was just like wow, just to see that George still has all that energy and vitality, and he's out there with his grandkids. And band grandkids, and sons of former members, daughters of former
Isn't that
members.
something? They've lasted.
They've lasted. I mean, just like wow, and all the stories that he can tell. I mean, that's
Did
one
he
of
wear the diaper?
No, that's Scheider.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
Scheider.
yeah, yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
that's Scheider. But Scheider's son was there, and he sang "Cosmic Slop," and he sounds just like his dad.
Wow.
I closed my eyes. I mean, there was a couple of times I teared up and stuff. Like I was just like, "Oh, it's really happening," because that's the thing for me. That if there was a band that I love the most, it is them. It is them. Everything about them.
When we come back, you've got a job to do. I know that, so we're going to let you get back and work on the radio show. But before that happens, just think about this for 60 seconds.
Yeah.
You're in charge of a show. Maybe it's at the Ordway. Maybe it's at the Orpheum. Maybe it's at the Fitzgerald. Maybe it's at Excel, Target Center, or it's at Carnegie Hall. You are in charge of getting 3 acts on that show that you would want on, alive or not.
Yeah.
I want you to think about who you would put on stage.
Oh, sure.
So,
Yes.
and I want you to think about Star.Bank, friends. They've got 10 locations throughout Minnesota. The family started the first one years ago. They still run the banks. So when you get a chance to visit them, maybe you'll have an opportunity to meet Harry or Andy or Katie or some of the others that make it a great place to do personal banking or business banking. But they're creative. We're talking about creativity. They have it over there, friendly, responsive to your needs, ever-changing needs, by the way, as you know. But they're quite impressive in supporting the growth and development of the communities they serve. I've seen that firsthand. A variety of needs. We all have them. They'd love to help you either in person, of course, digitally as well. But a visit to one of their banks is not a bad idea because you get to know them. They'll remember you as well. They keep doing banking the way it really was meant to be, business or personal. So I'd call Star Bank today or online at star.bank. Loans are subject to a loan application and approval. Remember, FDIC and equal housing lender, and they are our bank here at Talk North, by the way. Star.bank. All right, PaviElle, I don't think you've had enough time to think about this because you're gonna walk out of here and you go, that son of a gun, he caught me off guard with that. I should have said this.
I got it.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, well, I'm anxious to hear who you would put on. Someone that's been in the business, that does really everything in the business.
Yep.
Who would you do?
So I would have Cameo as an opener. I would have Kool and the Gang as the middle set. And I would have Parliament Funkadelic as the closer.
Wow.
Because we want to talk about high power all night long, just big band, 3 different sounds that completely affected and created, outside of Earth, Wind, and Fire, the way in which that music sounds today, or that sounded through the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Like all 3 of those bands, they influenced everything from soul to pop to hip hop. Mm-hmm. Whether they were, sampled or their music was continued, redone, those 3 bands in specific, that would be absolute powerhouse night.
Oh yeah, it'd be a great night. Can I get tickets from you, by the way?
Oh man,
I'll be hitting you up. Hey,
exactly.
PaviElle.
Skybox,
Yeah, there
okay?
you go. All right. I know you got your schedule. You got things going on here in just a few minutes, but really nice to have you, and I appreciate you taking the time to join Davide and I on the show. It's great to have you here.
It's wonderful to be here.
Congrats,
Thank
by the way.
you all. Thank you so much. I'm so excited about that McDowell. It's going to be great. I'm going away for 6 weeks for that up to New Hampshire.
Ooh.
Oh, boy.
And it's the same place where James Baldwin was a resident and fellow, and there's a house that he had, and the library is named after him. So I'm just like, I'm getting closer. I
Yeah.
feel like I'm getting closer.
Have you been
Nice.
to New Hampshire?
No,
Oh, it's
I've flown
exciting.
into there because I go to Massachusetts every year. There's a experimental institute that me and some other friends, Michi Wianko, Matt Swift, and Judd Greenstein, and Senia Rubinos, we all get together and we mentor young college students who have just graduated from music college, whether it be Juilliard, Tisch, wherever they go, and we worked with them. We give them scholarships to come be with us for 12 days, and we sit in residency and talk about artistry, music, life, all those things. So I've been out there, but just not quite there. Yeah.
Well, have a great time.
Thank you.
Congrats to you, too.
Thank you so much.
And I'm sure there'll be more in her life for sure that we'll hear about. PaviElle French, we'll pay attention to see when that new album comes out, too. At what point do you have time to get that in your schedule? Davide, she's awesome. I appreciate you joining us here again today.
Yeah. Actually, it was very nice that you agreed to come on, and I knew a little bit about you, and I thought that you would contribute to the whole history of the Minnesota music in a different way.
Yeah.
And man, you proved it today.
Oh,
So
thank you.
thank you for coming on.
Oh, of course. Thank you.
Davide Razzo, our producer here on the show, and in real life, he's a music producer, so I appreciate you. As
real
always,
life.
coming down to my level.
In the fake life, I'm producing podcasts, and
In
I
the real
work
life,
at
he's doing
KBM.
music. Yeah.
That's right. Okay.
All right, there we go. The pride of Basel, Switzerland, by the way. All right, Davide, thank you. PaviElle, thank you. And we'll be hearing from you, I know, around the bend. And again, people can hear you on KBEM, too, as we mentioned earlier. In the meantime, thanks to Star Bank for bringing us the show here today, and also our good friends over at AquariusHomeservices.com from the AquariusHomeservices.com studio. Dave Lee here on My First Concert. We'll see you again next week.